parts of the circle. The parts of the circle, what we're going to start with is the idea of the radius. So a radius starts at the center point of your circle, and it just extends to the circle's outer portion. Okay, you can't really call it an edge. It's not really an edge because it's not straight lined or anything of that sort. It just extends itself outward. Okay, and that is called the radius. And the radius, again, it's just the distance that one point on the circle is from the center. It's the distance from one point on the circle to the center. And you can have a radius written anywhere. Any point on the circle extended to the center of the circle is called a radius. So you have an infinite amount of radii. Okay, then you've got the longest measurement on your circle, or inside of the circle. The longest measurement inside of the circle is called the diameter. And that is the distance from one point on the circle, crossing through the center of the circle and extending to the opposite point. Okay, so it starts at one point on the circle, extends itself right through or passes right through the center and continues to extend all the way into the opposite point. That is the diameter. And then circumference. Circumference is basically your idea of perimeter, except perimeter is when you add up all the sides of a shape. Circumference is just the perimeter of a circle because you don't really have sides on a circle. So you can't really call it perimeter in that case. But it's the same idea. It's the distance that's measured around the circle, or one full revolution. Okay? And then we've got these formulas for circles. And the nice thing is that you will be given a formula sheet for your test. The formula sheet will be attached to each of the questions on your test. But it's still a good idea to know these formulas as best as you possibly can. And the concept, there are certain concepts that won't be on the formula sheet. Like the idea that the radius is exactly the same thing as taking the measurement of your diameter and dividing it by 2. That's not going to be on the reference sheet. That's something that you just have to know. That if you take 2 radii and pair them together, it's going to form your diameter, which makes sense because a point on the circle extending only to the center is a radius. And then this point on the circle extending to the center is the radius. So these 2 radii combined together are forming that diameter. So the radius is diameter divided by 2. Diameter can also be found by taking the radius and multiplying it by 2. So again, that concept itself is not going to be on your reference sheet. That's something that you would just have to remember. Circumference and area formulas, those are going to be on the reference sheet. So the circumference is found by taking the diameter and multiplying it by this value of pi. Who can raise their hand and tell us what is pi equal? Nicholas. 3.14. Does anybody know the fraction form of pi? What do you think? What do you think? No, it's actually a fractional value. Nope. It's 22 over 7. If you type 22 over 7 into your calculator and then you convert it to a decimal, it's going to go ahead and start converting that pi value. 22 over 7 is the fractional value that we use for pi. 3.14 is the estimated decimal value, because remember, pi doesn't actually stop. 3.14 is just an estimation. It's not an exact value. Pi is one of the most famous irrational numbers that we know. An irrational number is a number that continues on forever without any pattern, without any repetition, and it never stops. Yeah. $3.14. So remember, these are just converted values. They're not exact. Okay? So if you're talking about pi itself, oops, the value of pi, if you're trying to convert it into your decimal form, there's what it looks like. 3.141592654. That's your pi. That's value of pi. If you do 22 over 7 and you convert that, it's going to come out to roughly the same. Roughly. Again, it's just an estimation, right? So 22 over 7 is an estimated value for pi in fraction form. Okay? So here's our circumference. Circumference is found by taking your diameter's measurement and multiplying it by pi. Now, in reverse, because sometimes you might be given circumference and you have to identify the diameter, or you might be given circumference and you have to find area. So you need to know how to work this out in reverse. So in the reversed format, if you wanted to get diameter by itself, diameter is the same thing as taking your circumference value and dividing it by the pi value. Which makes sense, because if you were to solve to get diameter by itself, you would divide both sides by pi. Pi divided by pi cancels pi out, and then circumference divided by pi has diameter by itself. With area, the area formula. Area is found by taking the radius and squaring it. That's not the same thing as radius times 2, because again, radius times 2 is just the diameter. Radius times 2 would just be giving you the diameter. You are taking radius and raising it to the second power, which means you're doing radius times radius and then multiplying it by pi. In the reverse, and this is very important for you to know, if you were given area and you needed to solve for the radius, then the radius is found by taking the area and dividing it by pi, and then at the very end of that, you take what's called the square root. And I'll write that down. This is called a square root. So you take the area, you divide it by pi, and once you've done that, you then take the square root of it. So let's say that the area divided by pi came out to 25. Then the square root of 25 would be 5, because 5 times 5 equals 25. Okay, if you took the area, let's say the area was, 314, and you divided it by 3.14 by pi, you'd get 100. Square root of 100 is, anybody know? 10, because 10 times 10 is 100. Okay, so you take your area, divide it by pi, then you take the square root of that answer. All right. For problem number 1, what I want to do is I want to identify the radius. I want to know what is the diameter. I want to know what is the circumference going to equal. And I also want to know what is the area going to equal. Radius, diameter, circumference, and area. What's the radius? 5 inches, right? Radius starts at the center. It extends to a point on the circle. That is 5 inches. What's the diameter? 10, right? We're going to take that 5 inches and we're going to multiply it by 2, and that's going to come out to the diameter being 10 inches. Okay, again, for circumference, you're going to take the diameter's measurement and you're going to multiply it by the value of pi. So our diameter's measurement in this case is 10. We're going to multiply 10 times 3.14, and 10 times 3.14 is going to come out to 31.4, and that is inches. 31.4 inches. For area, again, it's the radius squared times pi. The radius in this case is 5, so we're going to do 5 squared, and then we're going to multiply that value by 3.14. What's 5 squared? 25. So we've got 25 that we're going to multiply by 3.14. That's going to come out to 78.5. So your area is 78.5. Now it's area, and area is always inches squared. So perimeter or circumference is just the unit. Area is units squared. Units squared. So you need to make sure you keep that in mind, because sometimes, guys, they might put 78.5 inches and 78.5 inches squared. You have to know which one is the correct format for area and which one's the correct format for the circumference. All right, on the next page is another problem. I want you to do the second problem on your own, please. Huh? The same stuff. Radius, diameter, circumference, and area. All right, what's the radius? 5. Oh, we did this already again. Oh, okay, hold on. That's my typo. That's supposed to say 16, that's why. My typo. Redo it. Oh, man, I'm so sorry. Redo it. All right, let's try that again. What's the radius? 8 feet. Radius is 8 feet. What's the diameter? 16 feet. Okay, so for the circumference, we're going to take the 16 and we're going to multiply it by 3.14. What is the circumference? 50.24 what? Feet. Don't forget to put your measurement. You need to put your measurement down. 50.24 feet. Okay, area, we're going to take the radius and square it. So we're going to take 8 squared, which is 64, and we're going to multiply that by 3.14. Okay, so what's the area going to come out to? 200.96 feet squared. Don't forget to put feet squared. Okay, very, very quick and simple. Feet squared. Alex? Isn't the circumference just the area divided by 4? In this case, that would work. Not every case is going to work. Like look at your previous one. If you do 78.5 divided by 4, you are not going to get 31.4. Okay? So, in this case, yeah, it's going to work out that way. That's not how it's going to be for every single problem, though. Okay? All right, problem number 3. We're given the circumference. I want to know the diameter. So, you're going to take your circumference and you're going to divide it by what? By 3.14. Divide it by pi. So remember, to find diameter, you take the circumference measurement and you divide it by pi. So we're going to take 32.656 and we're going to divide it by 3.14. And what do we get for the diameter's measurement? 10.4. And that is yards. Okay, for the area formula, in order for us to find the radius, we are going to take the area and we're going to divide it by pi, and then we're going to take the square root of that answer. So that means we're doing the square root of 84.9056 divided by 3.14. So we have to divide first. We have to divide first. So if we do 84.9056 and we divide it by 3.14, that's going to come out to 27.04. And then when we take the square root of 27.04, we're going to get what? Do you guys know where your square root button is? All right, so take a look here. Okay, if you type in second, and you see where the x2 is, above it, that's your square root button. Your square root button is above that x squared. You have to hit second first. You have to hit the green button first. You'll type in 27.04 and hit enter, and it's going to come out to 5.2. And that's meters. All right, for problem number 5. Problem number 5, we first want to solve for the area. So this is not a full circle, is it? This is a semicircle. This is considered to be a semicircle, which means that our area formula is similar. We're going to take the radius squared. We're going to multiply it by pi, but then at the very end, we're going to divide it in 2 because it's half of a circle. This is an area of a semicircle. Semicircles are half of a circle. So we would just do 3 squared, because in this case, our radius is 3 yards. We're going to multiply that by 3.14, and then we're going to divide that final answer by 2. Okay, 3 squared comes out to 9. You'll then multiply it by 3.14 and then divide that answer by 2. You're going to get that the area is 14.13, and that's yards squared. Oops. 14.13 yards squared. Now, for perimeter is a little bit different. Yes, you would find the circumference and then divide it by half, but the circumference in half is only going to be from here to here, right? Circumference is the entire revolution around it. If you take the circumference and divide it by half, you're only going to get from here to here. After that, you would then have to add the diameter to it. You would then have to add the diameter to it. So you would take the circumference, which is going to be the diameter times pi, and then you would divide that in 2. And then you would add the diameter to it. So in this case, the diameter is 6. So you do 6 times 3.14, divide that answer by 2, which is going to come out to 9.42. And then you would add the 6 to it. And your final answer is going to come out to 15.42 yards. Your homework for tonight, because you do have actual homework, it's a worksheet. It is due before the start of class tomorrow. When class starts, we are grading it. So anything that is left incomplete is marked wrong. Please make sure that you get the worksheet done. I'm going to pass it out to you right now. If you lose your worksheet, it's already loaded onto Google Classroom.